Author's POV. The club was alive with pulsing music, the bass reverberating through the walls as people danced under neon lights. The air smelled of expensive liquor, sweat, and something faintly smoky. On the rooftop terrace, away from the chaos, Jungkook leaned against the railing, a cigarette balanced between his fingers, the ember at its tip glowing faintly in the darkness. YN stepped onto the terrace, her arms crossed tightly against her chest. The night breeze lifted strands of her hair, making her look even more intimidating as she approached him. "Still ruining your lungs, I see," she muttered, rolling her eyes. Jungkook smirked as he exhaled a slow stream of smoke, looking down at her with amused eyes. "Still bossy, I see," he countered. They had known each other for years. Once they had been too close even. But somewhere along the way, things had shifted. College had turned them into rivals, both refusing to lose to the other, whether it was in academics or sheer arrogance. YN had always been quick-witted, and Jungkook had always been too stubborn. What started as a playful competition turned into sharp remarks and cold shoulders. They had become enemies, each pushing the other's buttons just for the thrill of it. And now, here they were, standing under the moonlight, continuing their familiar battle. YN took a step closer, snatching the cigarette from his fingers and tossing it onto the terrace floor, crushing it beneath her heel. "How many times do I have to tell you to stop smoking?" she huffed. Jungkook shoved his hands into his pockets, his smirk unfaltering. "And what if I don't? Then I'll just keep throwing them away," she snapped. He chuckled, tilting his head slightly. "You're persistent. Fine. Make me addicted to something better, and I'll stop," she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, please. What else could be better than?" YN stopped abruptly as she realized the look in his eyes. His gaze was dark, unreadable, yet full of something she couldn't quite name. "You're ridiculous," she muttered, flustered. Jungkook took a step closer, the proximity forcing YN to back up against the railing. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Well, are you going to?" To what?" she stammered, her heartbeat quickening. His lips curled into a smirk. "Make me addicted." YN swallowed hard. The air between them was thick with tension, an unspoken challenge hanging between their gazes. She wasn't about to back down. "Fine," she said, her voice steady despite the warmth creeping up her neck. "You want something better?" Jungkook raised a brow, intrigued. "Go on." YN inhaled deeply before lifting her hand, brushing her fingers over the collar of his jacket. Jungkook stiffened slightly at the unexpected touch. Slowly, she trailed her hand up, fingertips grazing his jawline. "If you're looking for something to be addicted to, why not try me?" she whispered, her lips barely inches from his. Jungkook's smirk faltered for the first time, his breath hitching slightly. His hands instinctively found her waist, gripping lightly, as if testing her reaction. "Dangerous offer," he murmured. "Scared?" she teased. Jungkook let out a low chuckle. Not even a little. Before she could say anything else, he closed the remaining distance between them. His lips brushed against hers lightly, testing, teasing. YN gasped softly, her hands gripping the front of his jacket as if to steady herself. Jungkook took that as encouragement, tilting his head and deepening the kiss. The kiss was slow, but intoxicating, each movement deliberate. YN melted into him, feeling the heat of his body pressing against hers. Jungkook's fingers tightened around her waist, pulling her closer as if he couldn't get enough. He tasted like mint and the faintest trace of nicotine, but she didn't care. All that mattered was the way he was kissing her, like she was the only thing he ever wanted. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. Jungkook rested his forehead against hers, his lips still ghosting over hers as he smirked. "Guess what?" he murmured. YN barely managed to reply, her thoughts still spinning. "What?" His dark eyes locked onto hers, filled with something far more intense than before. "I think I just found my new addiction." YN's breath caught in her throat. She should have seen this coming, but hearing him say it sent a shiver down her spine. Jungkook leaned in again, this time placing a slow, lingering kiss just below her ear. "You win, YN," he whispered. "No more smoking. Just you." And somehow, that was far more dangerous than any cigarette could ever be. Jungkook's gaze flickered down to her dress, a teasing smirk playing on his lips. "By the way, you're wearing that? On Valentine's night?" he murmured, his fingers grazing the exposed skin of her back. Wien raised a brow. "What about it?" He hummed in approval. "Just didn't expect my enemy to be this distracting," he teased, his thumb lazily tracing circles on her waist. "And in a dress like this, you're practically begging for trouble." Wien rolled her eyes, but the warmth in her cheeks betrayed her. "Or maybe I just like watching you struggle to keep your eyes on my face," she shot back, smirking. Jungkook let out a low chuckle, leaning in closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Struggle? Oh, sweetheart, I'm not struggling. I'm savoring." Her breath hitched slightly, and before she could retort, he brushed another kiss against her jaw. "Happy Valentine's Day, troublemaker," he whispered. "You're officially my favorite addiction." YN rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress her smile as Jungkook's lips found hers again, this time with a little more urgency. And just like that, under the midnight sky, surrounded by the echoes of music from below, their rivalry faded into something far more intoxicating.